Good day to you, Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey, happy to be back with you here this week. I know some of you missed me last week because you were inboxing and messaging and so on, but even though I wasn't here, I'm told that there was a rebroadcast of the previous week's program. Let me apologize for not being here last week. I did say to you the week before that I had an exam last week during the same time that Facing the Nation is usually aired live on Fridays, so I was unable to be here last week, but I do trust that you did take a lot away from that rebroadcast, because I think the one that would have been rebroadcast would have been that program with the chancellor of the vice chancellor actually of the University of Guyana, and of course the second half of that program dealt with those members, those public servants who took to the streets and they were picketing the current president of the Guyana Public Service Union. So that's what happened last week on the rebroadcast, and again I apologize for not being here, but you know, these exams, this is crunch time, especially for students, those of us who, whether you go to University of Guyana or other institutions, this is crunch time for us. So I am in and out and back and forth, but nevertheless I'm happy to be here again with you this week. Of course we won't be here next week either, because we try our very best, unless it's something really really important, we try our very best not to have this program on religious holidays. And you know, next week Friday is going to be Good Friday, but we'll talk a little more about that a little later on in the program before I wrap up. Today's program promises as usual to be very very interesting. You can see I'm smiling. I have a semi-comedian in the studio here with me. He's coming on to talk with you. He's become family, Facing the Nation family. I think I could probably close my eyes and have him host Facing the Nation every now and again. You should see him doing all these crazy things behind the camera right now, trying to distract me, but it's not going to work. Two things we're focusing on today. The first half of the program is dedicated to, in a sense, more than one issue, but we're going to start off with the Guyana Chess Federation. This young man has been recently elected. Yes, I think it's elected, but he'll clear all of that up just in case I'm saying the wrong thing. He is now the president of the Guyana Chess Federation. Those of you who are on social media, not even on social media alone, that you're following the news, you would know that person is James Anthony Bond. He is also involved in upcoming People's National Congress reforms outreaches. And you know, I like to remind you that yes, I'm a part of APNU, which is a Partnership for National Unity, by extension a part of the APNU AFC government, but first and foremost we are PNCR, and we're very proud to be a part of the PNC. Of course, you know, previously it would have been PNC, but we've now added on, not now, but the reform contingent, for want of a better word, is added to there. But we are PNCR to the core, and I'm happy to have him come on to talk about that. So I'm going to ask him to just take a break from his comedian duties and come to join me on set. But while he's doing that, coming up in the second half of the program, next week is Holy Week. So I thought it fitting to have the Catholic Bishop Francis Dean Alleyne, that's the Bishop of Georgetown. He will be coming on in the second half of the program. Today to talk about the Lenten season, Easter, and you know what it means to us as Christians. For those of you who observe it and those of you who celebrate, he'll be coming on to talk about the importance of this season. He'll also talk about, you know, what we can do in society to more or less strengthen and bring back the peace and calm and spirituality in a sense. So we have a packed one for you today. In the meantime, I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome back to Facing the Nation Mr. James Anthony Bond. I don't know why his chair is higher than mine today, but that's fine. You see, he reduced the level before the cameraman went on him, but it is really happy to have you back with us, James.
So
welcome back.
So good to see you, Malika.
Viewers, I wish you could have seen what I would have been seeing a moment ago. He is now youth leader / former MP. / politician / comedian. I've just had to add a comedian to there and to that, and in the meantime our cameraman is working on bringing him into the shot. So again, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you back to Facing the Nation, James.
Always a pleasure.
You've been a busy bee.
Oh boy.
You're doing a lot. I want to talk about your research because there are not many people who know this about you. I'm seeing. Oh, there you go. He's on screen now, so viewers can viewers can see. We know you as politician, as attorney at law, and so on. I guess the people who are out there on the streets know you also as a chess player. But to me and to so many other persons, this is new, even though I know him so well. You are now the president of the Guyana Chess Federation. This is interesting and somewhat different. But even before we talk about that role, how interested are you in chess, and are you indeed a chess player? And this is for the people out there who never knew this before now.
I absolutely love chess. I learned the game about 2 years ago.
You're still a youngie.
Yeah, and I'm beating a lot of people. I just put some links in Mr. Hudson. And he's a strong player as well. He's been playing for a good couple of years. I got wins against the national champ, Wendell Musa, the junior champ, Saif. I called their names out so they could verify. So I'm a fast learner. And from the first time I was taught the game by Hagen Alleyne, the first time I played, I'm like, whoa, why didn't I play this game much younger? I didn't even play my teacher now, the person who taught me the game, because it's so easy to beat him. You know, so I just have a knack for the game, and it has a lot of life lessons to it.
Really?
Yes, patience, strategy, discipline, all of those come hand in hand with playing chess.
Things that a politician require?
Well, not an individual, an ordinary individual would need in terms of how they go about their lifespan. So I started playing the game, and where my office is, the guys come and play. And when the Musa, he said he was running, this is last year I think, he's running for the Chess Federation president. I said, that's good, man, that's excellent. But afterwards, you know, the guys being around me a lot, they're like, James, why you don't run for it? You know, and I says, okay, I'll give it a shot. I mean, I have some ideas for the game. And the rest is history. The 26th of March, we had elections, and I was elected unopposed. I think there was one challenger. There were two challengers. Mr. Frankie Farley, he challenged, but he decided way before. He says, Magic, I think chess will be in great hands with you, and he'll support me. He's now my VP for development. There's another challenger, Mr. Richard Hussein, but he opted out. On the day of the election, he decided not to run. My slate includes Ms. Yolanda Passad. She's a legal officer, secretary, company secretary at Massey. We have also Mr. Irshad Mohammed. He's a businessman. We have committee members like Ryan Singh, Maria Thomas, Anthony Trayton, treasurer is Mr. David Mars, and our secretary is Mr. Natasha Singh. So we have a very, very, I must say, competent and professional executive. I think it's one of the best, like people are saying, is actually best executive they've had in terms of competency levels since the times of Forbes, Sampson, Barnum, and these other great chess presidents who had the Chess Federation back in those days.
Really? And I'm learning something. Never knew he was the
yes,
president.
Two of our PNC leaders were presidents with Chess Federation.
But let's come to this. Why is it not all right, I should ask you then, how popular is chess in Guyana? Is it at all? Because yes, we know, yes, there's a chess federation, we know what they play, we know the game, they're in competitions and so on, but should it be louder than it is?
It should be. Chess has been dormant for quite some time. There have been solo efforts by some like Mr. Errol Tiwari, and I've included him in almost everything I do. Because growing up, you know those articles in Chess in the Startup News? That has been Mr. Errol Tiwari for decades. So it has been dormant. There were attempts to resuscitate it, but those have died down because I think the energy level, you need an energy level to keep pushing. You need someone to keep pushing, not to be resting on their laurels. And I think that is what I bring. We already started the process of having, for the first time in Guyana, Chess and Scholastic Center. It's going to be named after Maurice Brooms. We wrote the NFC for permission to use the resource center. They're to respond. I think they will respond favorably. So we will have for the first time Maurice Brooms Chess and Scholastic Center in Guyana. For the first time, you see, we're having a chess club in the prisons. For the first time, we're going to have a Women's Chess Association. For the first time in Guyana, we have a Burmese Chess Association. as also an executive chess associate. So we have the energy, and we're pushing hard to accomplish. We have a three month plan to finish a lot of deadlines. I said I wanted to be a performance driven executive. So I set deadlines for the federation. We're going to be hosting an international tournament with the biggest prize money chess I've ever seen. And guess how much is the amount of money? $100,000.
And that is the biggest prize money?
Yes. So
wow.
We're bringing some kind of respectability back to chess. And it's going to be done in phases. You're going to see a lot of improvements over the next 3 months, and then we're going to go on to the next 3 months. So we have our timeline set out, and it's fun. It's something I love doing. I love playing chess, and I love being around chess.
What is the greatest challenge for you in terms of the federation as the new president?
I don't want to sound too, what's the word? Too overconfident.
Okay.
But thus far, I've experienced no challenges. I've experienced the ease with, I think, being a people person, being someone who understands how to operate around different persons from different backgrounds. I think that has worked well for me. So I have no issues in terms of infrastructure, no challenges in terms of infrastructure, whether human or physical. I simply lay out a vision, I work towards it. And so far, there's been no challenges. I can't say we've inherited a wealth of money. Actually, I've told the executive too, we're starting at ground zero.
Well, if the biggest prize money is 100,000, definitely there's no wealth there for you to inherit.
We're starting from ground zero. I think the past president, Mr. Irshad Mohammed, he did a fantastic job in holding chess together, and I must say kudos to Mr. Mohammed. He's now planning the next major tournament. So chess has not been really the recipient of a lot of sponsorship, whether it's private sector or government, and I think that has been a bugbear in terms of any association. And I hope that the private sector and both government now jump on this new leaf or this new limb that we're extending, because the next level we're going to is chess in schools, and probably if not later than this year or next year, we'll have the national chess school championships for chess.
All right, I have to be a little bit, just a tad bit provocative here.
Sure, no problem.
Is chess gambling?
No, chess is not gambling. Chess is one of the most, I must say, mind-provoking. You use the word provoking. One of the games that challenge your mind. Challenge the mind. If you started playing chess, Malika, I'm telling you, you'll become a fan of it.
Okay.
It's a game you can't exhaust the possibilities. It's endless. There have been a lot of books and theories and videos about chess. So you could never, ever exhaust yourself in terms of learning the game of chess.
How long is your term limit going to be as president?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, yes, it's 2 years. That is sufficient time to get things up and running. As I said before, we have done a lot in just a week or two. And you could just imagine how we will grow in the next coming months.
All right. In just a week or two, indeed, you've done a lot. And one of the main things that I found it interesting the first time. I had a bit of a closed mind about it, but I think I'm warming up to the idea. You're planning to take chess into the prisons.
Yes.
What is the hope to gain from that move?
Well, as you know, persons who are incarcerated, they need two things: rehabilitation and reformation. And chess plays an integral part in that. I said before, chess is like anger management therapy. I was in there, and I told the players, sometimes you were the decision. I think this, for example, is a chess decision. Do I take this man's queen, or do I protect my king? And life lessons like that. Do I go steal this woman's purse, or do I keep to myself and be out of prison? And those are the life lessons chess teaches you. There are temptations, we call gambits in chess. I've just last studied something called the Jerome Gambit. So a gambit will allow you to say, well, do I take this pawn, do I take this piece, and probably be beaten for the rest of the game? Or do I constantly develop my pieces and have a strong game? So we teach, in chess, we teach offenders, look, they make the best decision. Make the decision that will result in you winning the game of life. And chess will teach, as I said, patience, tolerance, discipline, mostly discipline. And those are things that we need to bring to our inmates in all the holding facilities. And I must say that the Georgetown prisons, they've reached out to, they've said, look, we want to work with you, and we want to take this program to all the penal facilities in Guyana. So the Guyana Chess Federation will be providing all the materials, the books, the coaches, the chessboards and clocks, and we will be directly, they will fall directly under us. For example, chess clubs around the country, they're autonomous, so to speak, or semi-autonomous. But the chess club in the prisons will be an extension of the GCM.
An extension of it. Okay, at what stage you are currently at where, for want of a better word, negotiations and plans and so on to ensure that this really and truly takes off and just doesn't become another talk shop?
No, we've met with the authorities. We've written to them, and we're waiting on their response now.
Okay.
So of course, it's formal processes and the channels they have to be gone through. So you have to write to them and say, well, we want this. I've wrote to them indicating what clearances for persons, because you just can't walk into the prison.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that is why I had a closed mind first, because I'm trying not to be judgmental here, and I say that because I notice Bishop Francis Alleyne is already here, so I'm trying my very best not to be too judgmental. But the closed mind thing came because, again, unfortunately, they're criminals. So I guess that's where my concern came from. My immediate concern came.
Yeah, but as you know sociology and everything teaches that persons they depend on, they need a second chance, and as much as you could afford them to walk that road in which this second chance they're given, because most of the guys will not be in there forever. So when they come out with this second chance, they're equipped with a mindset. Because the battle sometimes is 10% physical and 90% mental. And it's about strengthening the power of the mind to think and to analyze.
Okay, all right, great. Let's move on quickly now to you're certainly a busy bee. You're in chess, and now I know I think you're one of the persons spearheading of course, viewers, we have to eventually always have to come back to politics, especially when James is here. You're one of the persons spearheading the walkabouts and outreaches I think the PNC has begun with the East Bank. Let's talk about that initiative and really and truly what is hope to gain, and the reason I'm asking too is I get this question everywhere I go. Malika, is the PNC losing ground? Is it losing its support base? You're in government now, you're part of APNU, you're part of the APNU AFC administration, but what about us, the ordinary people and the people who still remain true to the PNC? Is it aimed to, in a sense, try to get people to understand that, listen, we haven't forgotten you?
Of course. As you know, with the recent elections we had for Region 4, I was elected vice chair of Region 4, and I was tasked with responsibility for East Bank. So East Bank is the area that I'm in charge of directly, and we have an aggressive walkabout program from now until July. We're touching communities from Timeri, Yarra Cabra, Long Creek, Kururu, come right down to Eccles. And we believe that the success of our party is because of our grassroots support. And we want to keep that grassroots support. So these walkabouts are aimed at doing a number of things. One, to let the persons know that we're here for them, and we're designing our shirts and logos under the back marks. PNCR East Bank District, we are here for you. So we want to let the people of the East Bank know, and by extension all Guyana know, that we are here for you. So we will look to walk about, and not just to give a flyer or a pamphlet. We'll be walking around having conversations with people and to hear what their complaints are and to try to fix those complaints. And
I'm happy that you said that, because again, to another concern is that sometimes we do it during election season. People say, okay, we do. After then, we don't see to speak the way we speak as Guyanese. No, after then we don't see y'all don't come back. And Okay, so y'all coming to walk about in the community. What? How is that going to help me? What you bring in? Unfortunately, it has become a part of our culture that we expect something. We expect to stretch our hands and get something. How do you plan on dealing with that to say, well, look, we are going to not only say to them that we're going to address your problems as PNC, but we're going to try to find the solutions. How do you deal with that?
We have a fantastic team of ministers in the PNCR. Recently, our ministers, held an outreach at the PNCR. Daily ministers are in
It's
PNCR.
still ongoing, yes.
And the mandate of the president, as I understand it, is that our ministers and government must be accessible to the people. So we are simply on a fact-finding mission. There has to be a chain, a link of information. We are probably at the bottom, and we're channeling the information up front. So I could assure persons that whatever their complaints are, we have the mechanisms and the resources to fix those issues. I must say that in Yarrowcabra, for example, Minister Winston Felix will be there at the Yarrowcabra Youth Center at 2 p.m. on Sunday. The April 9th, on Sunday also, there will be a number of other ministers in region, on the East Bank. In Kururu, for example, there will be ministers. In Long Creek, there will be ministers. In Timeri, there will be ministers. So the PNC, they've always made their ministers and I want to say government accessible to the people and vice versa. And that is something we must be commended for. I mean, as you say, it is always sometimes we only see you campaigning.
Campaign, yes.
But I have never subscribed to that. I've heard a lot of times I'm going, James, man, you going back again?
We're tired seeing you.
And that is something that you want to have that constant connect with the people of Guyana. So we urge patience, though. We try to manage expectations. I think being politicians sometimes as a politician, you tend to sell lofty ideals. But I believe in managing expectations. I believe in being frank and being candid and saying, look, if it's going to take this process or this route, this may take some time, I may encounter some hurdles, but at the end I'll get a job done. And if I can't get a job done, this is the person who could get the job done. And I think that approach to the whole, not only just a simple walkabout talk shop, but in terms of how we actually politic amongst our people, is very helpful.
Okay. In linking the PNC to governance, and I mean this is national office at this point, one of the beautiful things is that since the current administration took office, there's been a little more freedom. Sometimes I think too much freedom because people tend to abuse the freedom that they've gotten. But we've been able to speak frank, and even though both you and I, we are from the same party, we are part of, in a junior level, part of the current administration. Grade the APN, because the last time we spoke, I think it would have been just before, after the budget would have been read. Yes, this would have been in 2016, just after budget 2017 would have been read. But can you grade from a youth perspective?
B.
Grade, even before I'm finished. Why B?
There have been successes and there have been shortcomings, but we're definitely over the pass rate.
Okay.
It's not a 60%. I think the APN EFC is running at 75%.
Youths are benefiting?
In some regard, and not in as much as I would like. And I think the more could be done for the young people of this country. We're now starting to advocate for something called quota-based representation for young people. And we want to ensure that the young persons, I don't call myself a young person anymore. Yes, I remember you saying young. I'm like, no. I'm with the septuagenarians now, I'm with the pensioners now. I'm on that side.
I'd like to say borderline.
I'm on that side.
Right
I'm
there.
38 years of age and I'm proud of my age. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in 38 years. Been in practice 15 years, member of parliament. I've accomplished a lot for becoming a kid from Bagotville, Mabruma. I'm the first in my family in a lot of regards, the first in my communities in a number of regards. So I would like to see more being done for young people. And the government has been doing some, could do more as with any government. I feel governments I know are doing or performing it.
100%.
Yeah, few, Norway perhaps, But we're doing okay. The financial constraints is happening around the world. That has been affecting. So a lot of programs and policies are not being executed at the optimum level that we would like to see. And these challenges, I tell people every day. I say, here you have the APNU AFC coalition. after 3 years, with these challenges, and at the end of the day, you know what you have? You have an honest government.
And technically,
You
we're
have
not a three.
you have an accountable government. I said, would you rather an honest, accountable, listening government? Right now, the members of our cabinet are meeting with the private schools at National Cultural Center.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather an accountable, honest, listening government, or the dishonest, thieving, corrupt, big shot, snobbish lot? You have the choice is clear. So I tend to look past the minor obstacles we may encounter, the teething pains. I look past that, and I look at the bigger picture. And I say kudos to the president, kudos to the ministers, kudos to the persons who work in the public sector, kudos to the Guyana Police Force. You know, I'm very proud of the Guyana Police Force now. I wasn't proud of them a few years ago, but they're doing a fantastic job now. And I think these things are a result of the new political climate that we have. So you say too much freedom. I said I allow them to.
You allow the freedom.
Allow them to, because
I just think that there's a line. There's always a line that you cross.
But at the end of the day, I see these freedoms as a result of the direct success of the APNU AFC coalition. Had it not been for us, person may not be enjoying that much freedom. And kudos to my friends in the Guyana Chronicle. Love you.
All right, James. I have to begin to wrap my conversation with you.
Sure,
It's always a pleasure to have you on Facing the Nation. I'm going to give you an opportunity to greet and to bring Easter greetings to, because of course Facing the Nation is not going to be back until after the Easter weekend because we don't have a program on religious holidays. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to just greet the public for Easter.
Well, this is very personal for me this time of the year. I had my religious battles in terms of questioning of who God was, and I actually found God on Good Friday.
Wow.
Yes, in law school in my own room, I had all these books around me, and I was like, who Jesus is, I've been taught who Jesus was for all these years, but who this man really is. And it was there in my own room that I discovered that he is real. He actually walked the faces of the earth. He did the things that he did, that the Bible says that he did. And I was like, how do you treat with him then? If all of these things are spoken of him, not only in the Bible, but in the Holy Quran, and he's the only religious figure that is corroborated by another independent religion, and that is amazing. That's an amazing fact in itself. So I must tell people that Jesus Christ is alive, and he's real. And I wish you all the best to our Christian and non-Christian brothers who are celebrating Easter. And kids, don't fly next to electrical poles, fly in open spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, James. That was beautiful. And even though James is a very good friend of mine, I've learned something new about him today. And viewers, I know that you have learned something new about him. But I feel, boastful. I can get to grill him some more a little later on about finding Jesus on Good Friday, because stories like these, keep us human and it's real, and we all know that I can get very sentimental and emotional at times, which I'm not going to today. Once again, James, thank you so much for coming on Facing the Nation. Of course, viewers, if you're now tuning in, you missed a really great conversation as usual with James Bond. Those of you who follow me on social media, by the end of the day, it will be uploaded to YouTube and to my Facebook page. Of course, this is Facing the Nation. As I did promise you, coming up in the second half of the program, I'll be chatting with the Bishop of Georgetown, Bishop Francis Alleyne. This is Facing the Nation. All right, this is Facing the Nation. Thank you so very much for staying tuned. Welcome to the second half of our program, and it really is quite interesting and in a sense exciting for me to be speaking with the Bishop of Georgetown Catholic, Bishop Francis Dean Alleyne, O.S.B. He's here for the first time on Facing the Nation. I trust that it's not going to be his last time on Facing the Nation, because apart from being a religious individual and representing the church and so on, this is a person who would have a lot to say to you about society and how we can improve society. And you know, there are so many shortcomings right now. Some of us, we're very worried about our young people. Unfortunately, I have to bring this up. We saw last weekend a young woman. She hasn't even lived yet, 10 years old, and she died because of an incident 2 weeks before that. She was kicked in the stomach. And this is just one of the very many issues that we're dealing with. So it really is interesting for me to be chatting with Bishop today. Welcome to Facing the Nation for the first time, sir.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
All right, great to have you. Bishop, the first thing I want to start off with, I want to take a quote from your message, your 2017 message for the season of Lent. One of the things you said is that you encouraged all for these days of Lent is to help one another strengthen our knowledge of and intimacy with the gospel that we can truly witness. Now, Bishop, Guyana, like so many other nations, we're still at a stage where we're plagued by so many social issues. Given that statement, how do you believe that can put us in a more or less better situation as a society?
Well, in our Christian tradition, the Gospels are the core teaching of the tradition, in which you have very well articulated the attitudes, the morals, the sense of dignity and worth, and how best to bring our life to be effective in this world, and how in this world to bring one's life to its fulfillment. And so the more that we, as I said, are in tune with and have an intimacy with that teaching, that then shapes the human person. And of course, again, in Christian tradition, our worship and the way we are called to live our Christian vocation is in community. It's about other people. All the teachings of Christianity is not about me. In the first place, it's about my disposition towards others, and again, the core teaching is always to put the other first. You're there to serve them, you're there to accommodate them, to forgive them, and so on. So I believe, very firmly, that the more that those become our daily diet, our daily language, then it forms a certain caliber of person that then brings something life-giving to the whole society.
Bishop, as we come to the end of the Lenten season, what should, not only as the Christian community, what are some of the things we should probably be pondering and thinking about, and things that we can take from the Lenten season into probably everyday life?
The Lenten season is one that we offer ourselves to do a regrouping, to do a stock taking, to really look at ourselves very honestly and objectively, and particularly in the context of our relationship with God and the relationship with one another. And it culminates in Easter. And Easter is the feast of feasts. That is the pinnacle of Christianity.
Okay.
The Easter, not only the day or the celebration on the day, but the Easter theme of resurrection, of life always greater than death. And so in the course of one's Lenten journey and reflection, and kind of honestly identifying in our lives what is working well, what is good, and we want to strengthen, and where are our weaknesses, where we have fallen short, where we have sinned, where we have bad habits, and then to be able to make choices, or to have a certain resolve to invest in, believe in, and work towards what is good and what can become
Okay.
better. What else can we embrace in our life to further enhance the goodness that is there.
Okay, Bishop, before we come to, because I'd like you to talk about, how you feel that we can change or correct or better some of the social issues that we're having in society. Before we even come to that, what is your wish for Guyana for Easter 2017?
Well, that wish goes beyond 2017, but a resurrection wish, that, very clearly, Guyana has so much going for it. And we hear this said so many times, the possibilities, the potential, particularly in human resources.
Okay.
Not to begin to mention what else is there. And that's what I wish. Can we together help each other see this and buy into it and work with it and work for it? It's huge. If this nation got it right, we just take off. And that's
Move
resurrection.
mountains. Yes, indeed, Bishop. Unfortunately, I have to talk about some of the problems that we're having in society and how you feel that some of these we may not be able to meet complete eradication, but how we can at least begin to fix some of these issues. Every now and again, there is a quote unquote, because not many people would agree with it, but every now and again there's an upsurge in terms of our suicide rate, especially among young persons. 2 days ago, no, I think it was yesterday actually, a young woman, she was strangled by, her partner. So we're dealing with that. There are other cases of domestic violence and violence against women. And the fact is there is even violence against men. They will not come out and say it because I think it's still an issue. Not many men are willing to come out and say, okay, look, I'm abused. So we're having abusive relationships. People are still drinking and driving, disregarding road rules. And, a lot is going on. Criminal activities. So how do we deal as a society? And in this case, this is even political affiliations aside and even religious, because even though, yes, I'm talking to a Catholic bishop, I'm always proud to say that I am Catholic also. We have other religions in society. Fact. How do we try to break those barriers down, forget our differences, and come together as a society to help to begin to fix some of these problems in order to save our younger generation?
It's a tall order. But again, the Easter message is that life is still greater than, and even though you may not see the immediate steps or results, you still have to believe that this is possible. Certainly, I think as you look at some of the issues you mentioned, our young people in particular, but then some of these very grave situations of violence, wherever it is, in the home, gender violence, it's very much, I believe, rests in a sense of identity that people would have, how they see themselves. Violence is always a sign of insecurity. And then so why are people insecure? What has brought this about? And therefore, in looking at our young people, if as a nation we could just give concerted effort to affirming and building confidence, assurance in young people, that I think they would be much less vulnerable, or in a much better place to make better decisions. So can we sort of build that sense of security and affirmation? I think we can, and again, you mentioned other faiths.
Yes.
And that's huge in Guyana. I find that's a gift that we have, all these faith traditions. Because, yes, here we are in Christianity at this time talking about Lent and Good Friday and Easter and these things, but the themes that run through there, are very much alive in other faith traditions.
In other faiths.
When our Hindu brothers and sisters celebrate Diwali, you hear the themes of life over death and light over darkness and goodness over evil and so on. So it's more and more to familiarize ourselves that if that could become much more our daily conversation and the way we address things and see things. But that needs a huge buy-in,
Religion and Christianity aside, Bishop, do we need? I mean, I know there are already groups in charge and groups created to, whether it be government or non-government, created to oversee certain issues and so. Do we need more of that? More of these groups being formed?
Well, the whole thing of monitoring and policing and sort of calling people to account, and it's a pity that people cannot just act out of their own integrity.
Okay.
And certainly we want to aim towards that.
Mm-hmm.
But Guyana, and we see this, at least that's my perspective, across the board, very limited in maintaining the agents or agencies that would adequately monitor and sort of give some sort of
Right.
scrutiny and
Indeed, we can't run everything without financial aid, so that becomes an issue too.
Sure. Even though I still don't put that as
Priority top.
over and above.
Okay.
But I hear that, yes. Obviously, if you have the resources to form your police service and have the numbers that will be necessary to monitor everything, then you do need the financial backup.
Okay, indeed, great, Bishop. It's and it really and truly, this is different, and it's really great that I can get your sentiments on this before I begin to wrap up my conversation with you. Is there anything that needs to be done currently in Guyana right now at this point to see betterment holistically in every sector, every sphere? And you did talk about the things that Guyana can do, if we are in a different positions. We are all talking about oil now, the places Guyana can go. And of course, this brings me to another point. Do you believe that the international world has an influence on where we're going or where we've gone as a society?
Yes. And in some ways it has been good, but other ways that has not, history has shown, has not always been the best for the country. And that's always a difficult thing to monitor and look at, that whilst there can be aid from outside, but sometimes, there are conditions attached to it which may not always be in the best interest of the nation. But yes, that's the nature of our world today. We are very much connected to other countries, other governments, and what is happening in the rest of the world. And those things, yes, do have an impact.
Yes. Okay, Bishop, our conversation really was indeed interesting, and I'm certain that our viewers found this very interesting too, and also refreshing. Before I let you go, because the Bishop is also busy, before I let you get back to that schedule of yours, I'd like to give you an opportunity to, in a sense, greet our nation. I know you will do it elsewhere through other medium. I'd like to give you an opportunity to greet and to say something to our nation for the Easter season as we prepare to close off the Lenten season.
Certainly, it's just to bring those Easter greetings to everyone, greetings which in our tradition speak of life over death, life overcoming the strains of death and necrosis that we meet sometimes on a daily basis. But just to wish that everyone would have that kind of expansiveness in their hearts to know that there is life, and not to doubt it, and believing in it, investing in it, and together really reaching out to see what is still possible.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much for being here, Bishop. All right, viewers, this would have been a conversation with Bishop Francis Dean Alleyne, O.S.B. He is the Catholic Bishop of Georgetown. Those of you who missed the conversation, you can tune in a little later on in the day to my YouTube channel. It will be uploaded there like all the other conversations, and it will also be posted to YouTube. Of course, this is Facing the Nation. I will be back in a minute or two to wrap up today's program with you. Stay tuned. Right, welcome back to Facing the Nation. This is the final part of it for this week. I'm always a bit sad when I have to leave you, but today's program was refreshing. I think so. I know you're thinking that at home too. Once again, thank you so very much to James Anthony Bond for coming here. Of course, as I did say to you earlier, he is the new president of the Guyana Chess Federation. I have to ensure that I say the right thing here. He is the new president of the Guyana Chess Federation, and it really is interesting to see James move from one level to the next, and it shows you that he's multi-talented and he can multitask because he is in so many different things. And for him, it's not all about politics, or it's not all about his law office, but it shows you how diverse he is. And James is just one example of so many other. I know he doesn't consider himself a young person, so to speak. He did tell you his age, but the fact is, in this business, in the political business, he is still pretty young. Even in the business of communication, he is still pretty young. In his law office, again, he is still young, even though he doesn't consider himself core young people. So congratulations to him and kudos to him. I mean, we all know that he can get a bit controversial and heated sometimes, but those are the things that we actually love about him. And at the end of the day, it always comes back to where he keeps his feet on the ground, and he has served as one of our good examples in terms of young men. We know, unfortunately, there are not many of them left. He's one of the few ones that left that we can look up to and take pattern. I'm not saying that he's perfect, and I'm not saying that a role model should be perfect, but you should at least portray those skills that you can be a productive citizen, a productive adult, and live life in a manner in which people can, some aspects of it can emulate. You don't want, to emulate everything about a person, and then you can't find yourself. You can't find your own identity. That is not what it means to have a role model. Not doing everything that they do, or agreeing with everything that they do, or agreeing with everything that they say. But aspects of their life you can probably use to propel yourself into productivity and like I always say, to become, a good Guyanese citizen. So keep that in mind. Having a role model doesn't mean that you have to do everything that they do or be exactly like them, because we don't want you to lose yourself. Self-identity is still very, very important. The other refreshing part of today's program is that conversation with Bishop. And I can tell you, he left. I came in here a bit, not settled, because in your environment there are always things that you're dealing with and people that you have to deal with, that and I did tell you at the beginning of the Lenten season that this season becomes very challenging for some of us, because you have so much that you're dealing with, and it's as if the devil goes the extra mile to tempt you. So having Bishop here was a bit refreshing. It settled me, and I trust those of you at home, you felt a bit peaceful and calm listening to him, minus the aggression and a bit of confusion. We all need that every now and again. This is whether you're a Christian or not, whether you're a Catholic Christian, whether you're Pentecostal, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Hindu, it doesn't matter, whether you're Rastafarian. We all need that sense of peace and levelness. And I trust that as we approach Holy Week, that you are going to find yourself in a position where you become a little more at peace. Try it a little bit every day, and you'll be able to get there. That said, after Holy Week, it's the big weekend. It's a long weekend. It's Easter, and I always remind you not to use our holidays, whether it's religious holiday or other holidays, not to use our holidays to be reckless and drink as if there's no tomorrow and drive as though you're the only person on the road. Those are things that you should not do, regardless of whether it's a holiday or not. Easter is coming up. James did remind the little ones out there to ensure they fly their kites away from those power lines. Parents, it is your responsibility to remind them. It is your duty to remind them, and not only flying it away from power lines, but ensure that I know some communities, the power lines are far apart and they may take a chance, but then they have to look out for traffic on the road. So just to avoid all of that ifs and confusion and so on, take them to the national park, the gardens, the sea. There are places, there are wide open spaces that those kites can be raised in, and so that the children will be safe and they will have a great Easter and so on. One of the things, and I'm happy that I'm going to be a part of it, one of the biggest things for the 27th Easter weekend is Bartica. The Bartica Regatta. There's so much happening up there well, of course not this weekend, the coming Easter weekend. There's so much going to be happening up there, especially since this is the first Bartica Regatta since Bartica has achieved township status. And I know the mayor and the deputy mayor and so many other officials there in Bartica, they're working to ensure that those programs for the Bartica Regatta weekend come off without a hitch. I'm happy to be a part of it. Those of you who want to take maybe a weekend or a trip out, it's going to be a lot of fun, even if it's just one day, because it's very easy to get to Bartica. You don't have to necessarily overnight. You can go by speedboat just to be a part of the activities and to say, well, look, I am going to these other places in my country. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money and leave Guyana to have fun. So it's going to be great, the Bartica Regatta, and not only Bartica, but all of the other communities, regions, and so on that would be celebrating Easter in a big way. Remember, it reminds us and it represents the resurrection of Christ. So all of you who are going to be involved in it, our Christian brothers and sisters, those people who are not necessarily Christian but are still celebrating Easter, ensure that you have fun. And you live to see another Easter. You live to see Easter 2018. Well, it's coming up on closing time for me. As usual, I just have to remind you to be good Guyanese citizens. Please pray for the family, especially the parents of that young lady who unfortunately died last weekend as a result of being kicked in the stomach. And with that, I am going to remind you, in cases like these, we cannot blame the teachers. You do not expect a teacher to look at 50 or 60 children that they may have in a class, even 20 or 25. You can't expect a teacher to look at them for all the hours that and look at them individually. That is not going to work. When these children go out on the playground or wherever they go, you don't know what they're doing. So I'm urging parents, speak to your children. Speak to them. Let them know what is right and what is wrong, and let them be very careful, especially when they're playing, and let them avoid getting into fights. It is unfortunate that that young lady died. That little girl, I should say, 10 years old. She has not lived. And I will pray, and we should all remember to keep her family, especially her parents and her siblings, in prayer. And I trust, that her soul, may rest in peace and rise in glory. Unfortunately, on that sad note, I have to wrap up today's program. Of course, I won't be here next Friday because next Friday is Good Friday. I take this opportunity to wish you a happy Holy Week, a peaceful Holy Week rather, and a very, very happy Easter. I am Malika Ramsey, and this has been Facing the Nation. Thanks for watching.